Hey runners, welcome to our next video. Today we're going to be talking about a really interesting topic and hopefully you're going to get a lot out of it. We're looking at recovery and fueling on the run and nutrition on the run. So when we train, we obviously do damage to our body. The faster you can recover from that in terms of your muscles getting damaged, the better you're going to be able to build on the adaptations that we're trying to get, but also reduce the chances of getting injured. So I think that the best way to try and limit the damage is to prevent it in the first place, but you can't always help that happening. So I've just got a few tips today that I wanted to talk to you so that you can start incorporating some of these into your weekly training sessions. Now, the first thing is to start incorporating recovery into your weekly routine. This could be as simple as finishing your long run by standing waist height in cold water. It's definitely something that I like to do as much as I can, specifically after my long runs. If I can get into the ocean when I finish my long road runs, I'll do that. I can't necessarily always do it out on the trails, but sometimes there are really nice cold streams that you can use as well. Otherwise, just using ice baths, and you can even make your own temporary ice bath at home if you've done a really big session, and I've done that before, and I've seen plenty of people grab some bags of ice, throw it into the bathtub, and then go and try and sit in there for up to 10 minutes. Another thing you can use, which will prevent damage but also help your recovery, are those compression tights. Okay, making sure that they fit well and that they're really firm at the bottom so that they help with blood flow, and that does help with recovery. But you can also use that in certain sessions depending on the time of the year to prevent damage happening, because they will actually stop the muscle from shaking as much as if you otherwise didn't use them. Now, when I started doing more trail running, I did find that I used to get really sore calves, but over time I adapted, and I find that I now don't need to wear them. But I do see a lot of runners, and I don't think there's any problem with trying this, wearing those compression calf guards, especially if you get any lower limb niggles or injuries. And that could just be something that really helps you. But it's trial and error, a lot of these things are. See what works for you well, and then keep that and incorporate that into your weekly recovery routine. Other things that you can do could be using like a massage gun, like a trigger gun, or massage recovery boots. And I'll be showing some of these things to you today. Develop those into your weekly recovery routine, work out what works well for you, and start doing it. It's going to help you back up for your next session much faster. But more importantly, I think it's about making sure we don't get injured. The less time you get injured, the more consistent you'll be with your training, the better you're going to be able to accelerate your trail running journey much faster. Another thing that I think you really should consider doing is just getting more in tune with your body. And for me, it's using the services of a particular professional in Newcastle, in my hometown, called Dave Cossettinis from Abbiano Massage. He does something called a hip balance. It's literally takes 5 minutes to do, but 1 to 2 times a week, especially when I'm training heavily, I'll go in there and I'll see him, and he sits me down on a table, and he's got a way of just making sure that your hips are more in alignment than they could otherwise be, because potentially, depending on your body type, it's you may be leaning or using one side more than the other, and it's just about trying to reset and rebalance. I also get regular massage, but doing something that helps you get more in tune with your body is ideal, and is very beneficial. And it could be going and doing yoga. Okay, so working on those identified weaknesses that you do have in your body is going to allow you to be just more aware of how you're feeling generally during the week, but also when you're out training. So if you have things that are limiting you in your training, seek out the professionals, work out what it is that you need to improve. And it could be stretching, it could be yoga, it could be massages, but jump on it. There's nothing more frustrating than I see in people that are out there training that continually train when they've got a niggle and they could do something about it which would knock on the head pretty quickly. Dry needling is another excellent resource, which I've seen help many people, but get in tune with your body and then stay on top of your recovery. Something to be really aware of is also obviously your nutrition, and I'm going to talk a little bit about training nutrition in a minute. So fueling on the run is really important. You just want to make sure that you've got a way of doing that, and I'll show you some little tips in a minute. But nutrition generally is obviously very important for all runners. I think it's more important for trail runners, especially those people that are out there for longer. And having a really good resource to draw on to work out what works for you, especially leading up to events, and having a race day plan is essential. I use the team at Compete Nutrition. They've helped me put together what works best for me, but I've also used what I've learnt over many years of training and racing to make sure that I stay on top of my nutrition. Importantly, getting in post-training session recovery is essential to making sure that you're able to back up quickly, because if you are training for these longer events, the amount of training and the amount of demands that you're placing on your body is above and beyond what a normal person would be consuming and requiring in their daily lives. So seek out some advice of experts in nutrition and get a plan that works for you. Okay, everyone's different. The last thing I'd say in terms of nutrition is make sure that you really practice your race day plan well in advance. You don't want to be almost at an event and then thinking, okay, I've actually never really trialed what I need to trial before I'm going out on this 5 to 6 hour, worse 12 hour, 24 hour event. And you definitely don't want to be in a position where you're kind of second guessing yourself leading up to an event. It leads to a lot of nerves, but it's something that you can knock on the head if you go and trial it 6, 12, months out from an actual an event, because as I said, everyone's different. The amount that you can take in within any hour as you are exercising it just varies depending on the individual so much. And it took me a little while to work out what worked best for me. But one of the biggest tips that I can give you in regards to taking on nutrition during events, say your race day nutrition here, is to make sure that you do it often and limit the amount of times that you take on a lot. I prefer to use almost solely liquids, but I will break it up every now and again with some other snacks or products, especially in the much longer events. So just make sure you practice it, take it regularly and take little amounts, but really stay on top of your progress throughout the day. If I'm running an ultra and I know that it's a relatively runnable ultra, for example, I know that I'm running about 6-minute kilometres, and I know that every time I watch beeps for the kilometre marker, I might have a sip. So I'm making sure that I take on at least 500 mils of fluid within that hour, depending on the conditions, but obviously modify it depending on the weather as well. So runners, make sure you hit the notifications bell and subscribe, and let us know what you want to hear by commenting in the section below.